Yeah, we're back. It's another episode of the Seasons podcast, and right now, as you can visually see, I decided to do something a little different. We're gonna do a little painting today. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this or how I'm gonna take it, but let's just say that we're here. Uh, yeah. With that being said, let me get my utensils together. But I mainly wanted to talk about a few things for this podcast episode, and the reason why is because I really want to delve into what I see people my age do over and over again. And I feel like I want to be able to shed light on why I haven't, I guess, gotten into that threshold, or I guess that state of being. Because, long story short, today we're talking about fatherhood. And I think that it's one of the most common things that we as men, especially black men, if you didn't grow up with a certain amount of people or grow up with the right person in your life, it's one of those things where you're always going to be confused about what that's supposed to look like. And I think for me, I think to even talk about my own experiences, I didn't grow up the same way. I'm just as much as a common statistic as the next person. I didn't grow up with my father around, not consistently at least, for the longest. I had my dad around for a good period of time, but it was never like a reliable thing. And that's not to say that, people aren't capable of change or people can't show up in certain capacities. But for me, the reason why I like video games so much, to be honest, although before my dad even introduced me to certain games, is because whenever I would go hang out with my siblings on the weekend, it was just something that we just did. It was just something that we did. We played Call of Duty or zombies or things of that nature. And that was kind of how we bonded for the longest period of time, was basketball and Call of Duty or video games. Insert whatever game you want to be, whether it's ragdoll fighting or the case may be. I should really put some white on this before I even get to the acrylic part. But I say that to say, like, I didn't grow up with, like, the father-son relationship that I typically got. You know, some people, when their dad isn't in the house, they don't even get that. And, for a good majority of my life, I did have my father. He just wasn't in the house. He also wasn't, he didn't really teach me a lot. I think a lot of times he taught me, well, if anything, he taught me game, but it wasn't like game I could use in a sense. He knew a bunch of stuff. It just wasn't applicable to me at the time. It didn't come applicable to me, to be honest, until later down the road. But it was never something that, like, I don't know. It's a weird slippery slope. I'm the oldest boy, so the responsibility was always instilled. I need to take care of so and so and so and so, so and so and so and so. I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to do that. And I think it just became something that's like, you just stuck with it. But the crazy thing about it is that even in times where I was with my dad for a weekend and some change or whatever, and I saw my siblings, like my brother and my sister, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, even though I saw them, my dad was never a reliable person when it came to timing, when it came to doing stuff, when it came to like going out and about. Or a lot of times he would flake. Oh, this is where I learned a lot about trusting people in general. If my dad ever told me he's going to be somewhere in 15, 20 minutes, guarantee he'll be there in an hour. I remember one time my dad was like, I'm coming to get you. I put gas in the car. It was 2 hours later. And when he got to me, gas tank was empty. So it's just, you kind of get accustomed, especially as the oldest, you get accustomed to how somebody lies. You get accustomed to like how somebody will stretch the truth. You get accustomed to many different things and different facets of life. And it's one of those things where, like, I think my relationship with my dad was one of them. It's one of the reasons why I can tell when somebody's lying to me. Because from such an early age, such an early age, I had to dictate the two. And that's just how I grew up with it. And I think for the longest, eventually, my dad wasn't at any of my track meets. He wasn't at any of my taekwondo test. He wasn't at any of my big events like my band concert or anything. My grandfather was. My grandparents were. My mom, my aunt. But the thing that's interesting is I didn't have my dad consistently with me. And I kid you not, and some may think about this the wrong way, but if anything, everything I never wanted to be, I was able to avoid by not being around my dad 24/7. And I'm glad I was able to. And that's not to say I don't have qualities of him still, because I am his son. Like, if you saw me and my dad next to each other, like, you would be like, oh wow, those are twins. It's just strong genes. But the fact of the matter is, I'm glad I was able to turn out, more like my grandparents than my father, because it allowed me to be a different type of person, see things differently, experience things differently. But I can't run from that because I still am him. Trust. I still got a bunch of his habits. Even the facial expressions we make, how we like food to be made. We're brunch people. Like, it's just like, it's an all-encompassing thing. Like, I kid you not. It's just something that it's just a thing. If your last name is Bundy, you'll know. But it's just one of those things. But I realized shortly after, like, there were situations that came out after that I was like, dang. I think when I was younger, I never looked at it as absence because I had my grandparents, I had my great-grandparents. But the fact of the matter is it really was still for me. And I think that's how a lot of people get their abandonment wounds, is because you might have like your grandparents, but the immediate two parents that you have, you expect it to be a certain way. If anything, the fact that I saw my grandparents together really solidified that there's something missing here at home. And that was when I was younger. So it's just like, it's one of those things that I think as we grow older, it changes our perspective. And I think for me, it did. And eventually my dad stopped coming around in general. You could never trust him to tell the truth, but one thing you can trust him to do is tell you half of one. And so I think at a certain point, especially my dad stopped being in my life, I think for me, and the reason why I start with this topic, because I really want to express how it feels in this type of environment, to see if other people my age, other men my age who had their father around or maybe never did at all, to feel more vulnerable and feel more less emotionally incarcerated, to be like, you know what, my father wasn't around, so I do this. Or I don't want to be just like this, I want to be just like that. Or if someone's in a place where this conversation is like more beneficial than it does harm, it's like, why not, And so for me, at a certain point, something that God instilled in me ever since I was, maybe even kindergarten. I remember just throughout my life, just having so many dreams of how many kids I'm going to have, or my firstborn, really my firstborn. I remember the earliest time I had a dream about my firstborn, and I was like, wow, this is something that's like, I can't fathom the feeling that I get. I can't fathom it at all. But it's something that, allow anger to get into you, where it's like, sometimes when we don't have a parent, for men, whether it be your mom or your father, if something's missing, you think something's missing within you. And I mean, of course, there are nuances to it. There's a billion nuances to it, because there's so many different ways to skin a cat, so many ways to process life. But for me, I definitely think it played a part. It played a part in how I was angry. It played a part in how I had a bone to pick. The man I am now is nowhere near the man I used to be. The man I used to be would walk down anything, win or lose. And I think it was just, it's a different headspace to be in, And I used to want to have kids in spite of my dad. Like, I would always want to have like 4 kids, 3 kids or whatever, and I would be a much better parent than what I had. But that was a very destructive mindset to carry, to think that you're going to have kids to prove a point to be better. knowing that God had already bestowed upon me that I would already have kids, and the feeling it would evoke in me, I can be better, not because of someone, but just because that's what you should do. And I really want us as men to not think about the lack that we had in our upbringing. I mean, we have to acknowledge it in order to move forward, but I don't want us to stay in it, you know. The reason why I'm going to be a good dad has nothing to do with anyone that I've experienced in parenthood. It's just what I feel like is the right thing to do, you know. I have my own stuff that I've been through in my life. I've had many battles, many different things I had to fight myself, internally, externally, even amongst siblings, amongst cousins, amongst other individuals, amongst other men. You know, it's a different struggle for men, you know. It's one of those things that you never know. I had to cut real quick. Had a little bit of noise going on, but as I was saying, I just think that us as men, we have to do a better job of just navigating emotionally, financially, like the whole 9 yards. Not this joint is not staying up. Hold on. Not the mic is having technical difficulties. Not a fan of that. Okay, we got it now. It's just gonna have to stay clipped to my shirt. But I understand. And I don't want to give men my age like this cliche of like, you know, it's so much easier said than done, and all the many things that can go wrong, and it's not your fault. These are excuses for this, but at its core, I just want people my age to realize there's more than what you've been through. And that's not even for just men. That goes for everybody. And it's one of those things that I think we just have to put our best foot forward for. It's something that, you know, you don't ever have to subscribe to what you've been through. If you don't want to be like your parents, you don't have to be. Just stop subscribing to it. And just like that, it's done. You're no longer inside the space in which you're afraid of just by admitting that you don't want to be like them, and so you won't. That's the amount of power that you can have over yourself, over your emotions, over who you want to be. It's really that easy. Now, of course, like the doing part of it is clearly not going to be that easy, but when has anything that's been worthwhile ever been easy? You know, I do my very best to try to be the best that I can be every day. And it gets played out, trust me. I promise you on the 10th episode of this podcast, the 9th, the 11th, the 12th, you'll never stop hearing me say I do the best that I can. I'm not better than nobody, because at the end of the day, I'm not. But let's be real. The issue with using the absences in our life to make up for how we faultily show up in our own or other people's lives is our own fault. You know, it's not your fault that your parents left you. It's not your fault that things happened to you that you weren't in control of. But we have to stop using that as an excuse. We have to be better. And it's not to say this is some self-righteous monologue or anything like that, because I fell victim to it myself. You name it. Trust. It's in the genes. Because it's something that I found in my walk of who I am as a man, and just loving the people around me, or treating people wrong, or treating people from a hurt place. You realize that when you really are running from who that person is, or who your shadows are, or who your parents are, what you don't realize is that you run into them just by doing that. You just have to face it. You have to face it head on. I've hurt so many people in my life trying to overcompensate or protect or be more arrogant than just to show that I'm better than what I had. And the fact of the matter is, and that was when I was most like him. You know? And that's a real thing that I think men go through. There's no amount of bravado, there's no amount of what's the word I'm looking for? There's no amount of substance. There's no amount of depressants you can smoke, heat up. Something you can drink that'll put you in a different space than just doing it yourself. There's no amount of women that you can burrow yourself through or be absent for when it comes down to if you get them pregnant. There's no, and that's a stereotype in of itself, but there's anything that you use to placebo what you feel, or anything that you use to numb what you feel, it will always turn you into what you don't want. And it goes for everyone. It's a very slippery slope. And you know what's crazy is half the time when you don't touch that stove to see if it's hot, I can assure you, and this is in my experience, every time I've chosen to be the bigger person or I've chosen to not touch that stove to see if it's hot because it's not for me, the next person literally does it. And you can see what your actions will give you as a result. And we have to be careful about that. But I say that to say, like, don't give up. I know some friends of mine that are afraid to be parents because of how their parents were. Trust me, I was in that same boat. I know some people who are still stuck in that cycle of just having kids with whoever, not even thinking about what it was like to have a happy relationship between parents, or not even seeing that growing up, but not even thinking that it's possible for you, or if it doesn't apply to you, or even when it comes to making money, or thinking that you won't have the tools to be an adult. Like I've seen so many things in my life at 25 that most haven't seen yet. But then again, there's a large majority of people who have. And I don't take my experiences for granted because I thank God that the mistakes I made allowed me to stop people from making the same. I thank God the mistakes I made stopped others from doing the same mistakes that I made. Stop me from being worse, help people get better, and that's really all it's about. And so now, instead of idolizing the gift that, the desire that God put on my heart, to be a father, to be all the things that I knew I wanted to be when I was growing up, but I never thought I was good enough for because of what I didn't have. Or tolerating people who didn't respect me, or tolerating, you can say even girlfriends, tolerating girlfriends that never love you, but they tolerate you, or tolerating someone who never treats you well, not knowing what your worth is. And I'm not saying I got it figured out. I'm not. This is not what this is about. I do not have it figured out. I still fall victim. We fall short, but we can manage it. I promise you that. You just have to start today. It's a mindset shift. The good book says a wise man falls 7 times and gets up 8, but a wicked man falls into mischief. And I think that's the difference. When you fall down, you get back up. You get right back up and you keep going. It's not easy at all. Only reason why I'm painting right now is because I've fallen down a couple of times, and so now I gotta figure out how to pick myself back up. The season that I'm in right now, I gotta pick myself back up. There's nobody there to pick me up but me, and so I'm sitting here painting, enjoying the things that I enjoy by myself, the comfort of my own thoughts, the comfort of my own safety, my own safe space, the comfort of my own mind, and just spread it outwards. Express. And now it's just, when I think about my role now, when I think about the desires that God has put in my heart to be when it comes to being a man, or the type of man that I want to be, or who he calls me to be, and mind you, I'm still figuring out what he's asking me to do day by day, but I now understand the difference. We don't have to scale our parenting or our parenthood or your manhood or how you treat others. You don't have to scale them by what you've been through or what you've had access to as a man. There is nothing that your father who left, abused, or did anything else that they can do to change the fact that you get to start fresh. And I'm not making light of anything anybody says. Trust me, I got my own scars and wounds myself. I won't go into too much detail, but just know I understand. Majority of the time, I understand. But there does come a point in your life where you got to figure out, at some point, the people who are on this earth that give you grief or they tell you that you can't do something, they have borrowed time as well. And I refuse to let y'all wait till they're gone to start living your life, because by the time it'll be too late. Tomorrow is not promised, y'all. Just live today. treat women right, treat yourself right, believe in yourself, work hard for something that you want. Even if nobody else understands what you're working hard for, just keep working for it. Trust in God, allow Him to guide you, and you just go about it that way. Because even for me now, I'm able to change my mindset about how parenting looks like for me, because it's no longer about I'm going to be a much better parent than this and the third, because now it has nothing to do with it. Or I bet you one thing that we've probably always been worried about is I can't teach my son how to do car stuff. No one ever taught me how to do car stuff to that extent. No one taught me how to do housework. No one taught me how to do the roof. But we learn and we evolve. And the thing about breaking the cycle, it's not about what you don't have, it's about what you can give. I think at the end of the day, when it's time for me to settle down, when God tells me, okay, it's time for you to do what I've shown you, the only thing that you can do is start anew. Start new habits, start new understandings, experience a new form of love through others. It's just, you have so much room to grow. We have so much room to grow. And it's crazy because right now I'm painting with acrylic, and let me just say, it's like my first time painting with acrylic, and I'm used to painting with oil painting, so I'm trying it out. So my painting is going to look terrible, but we're still going to try and see what we can get from it. But I encourage men, no matter what your mom or your father did, don't let it affect your fatherhood. Don't let it affect your manhood. Don't let it affect how you treat others. Get the work done, sit in that chair. And then, what's crazy? Therapy may not be for everybody, but find something that allows you to release. Find something that allows you to take inventory and dig deeper. Figure out why you do certain things. Figure out why the gears turn the way they do. Figure out why you gravitate towards certain things. Like, explore that about yourself. I promise you, it can never go wrong, because what you learn about yourself, the next person won't have to figure out. When someone's like, oh, I'm lost in this space, it can be the next man, it can be your peer, it can be a friend, it can be your partner. Because you've done the work yourself and explored certain things about yourself, you're able to say, bam, this is the answer. Excuse me, that burp is about to come out crazy. But that's the love that you can give. It doesn't even stop externally, it starts internally. And I feel like that's just something that we have to keep in mind. One thing about me is that I want to be able to, and I'll tell you this now, to hold myself accountable and to start to hold you accountable. Anyone who watches this podcast as a man or a woman, whatever you may be, whatever your experience is with your parents or your family or friends or traumatic experiences you have, from this day onward, what you say out of your mouth right now, hold yourself to that standard. And if you fall short, give yourself grace, get back up, keep it pushing. Let me tell you something right now. I'll start first. From this day forward, we will pledge to be the best version of ourselves despite our surroundings. We will be, if your aspiring dream is to be a designer for clothes, you will start today. If your dream is to be a content creator, you'll start today. If your dream is to be a mechanic or a basketball player or whatever that dream may look like, start today. If it's a project manager, if it's a singer, if it's an artist, if it's a rapper, start today. And just keep working at it, Just continue. Make a pledge to yourself. I know right now, the man that I am right now I'm in a season of isolation. I'm in a season of growth. I'm in a season of reflection, because I want to figure out how these gears turn. Why am I the way that I am? So when that time does come, where God's like, okay, we found your person. It's okay for you to do X, Y, and Z. Be prepared. I'll already be ready. I'll already be ready. And that's the beauty of it. Let's say you fall short tomorrow. You still get the next day. You just don't have to stop. You can keep it pushing. You can keep going. It never has to stop. I knew that when I had a dream about what my firstborn would be like, I knew from that point onwards I needed to work hard. I needed to figure out a lot about myself. What makes me tick? What's my triggers? What What are my wounds? What's the abandonment about? Where did this come from? Why am I like this? And I'm not going to lie. Obviously, at a young age, it definitely took a back seat. It had to take a back seat at my young age, so I never really spent a lot of time stuck on it. But I can tell you one thing now, as I'm about to turn 25, it's at the forefront of my mind. Right now, I have nothing but love and admiration and building to do for myself. Figuring out where I want to be, what I want to do in the long run, whether it be content, whether it be film, whether it be cinematography, whether it be streaming, whether it be clothing brands, whether, it could be limitless, whether it be art, I don't know, it may not be art, but no matter what that may be, for me or for you, I want you to tackle it. That's all I want us to do is tackle it in a healthy space, in a manner, and figure out who you are. A lot of people use being young as an excuse, or I should be out here, wilding, but for me, it was never appealing. So here I am at home, trying to figure out what makes me me, and figuring out whose voice am I hearing. And that's another thing I want y'all to do. Whenever it comes to like thinking about doubting yourself, or if you're not sure if you can do something, or if you feel like you're not good enough, whose voice is that? Who in your upbringing, or who in recent times have told you you can't do something? Because I would indulge you to not listen. But that's the territory it comes with, It's not easy. But I say that to say, for me, because I no longer want to be a father in spite of someone, I want to be a father just because I know that's what's on my heart, to breathe life into the next, to prepare them for life, to keep moving, show God's love in a different way than what he's shown me. I don't have to subscribe to things as much as I used to. What's meant for me will be for me, and I will do what is just. And that's the beauty of it. I think it's the beauty of life as it is right now, is that everything that I will into fruition is already set in stone. Like everything that is part of your purpose, everything that makes you get up in the morning, everything that makes you move quicker or slower. And even right now, I'm in a very rough season myself. Y'all can probably tell, or not, it depends how close you're looking. I'm in a rough season myself. I'm in a very vulnerable season, in a season where I have to figure out about myself, in a season where I have to heal, lick my wounds, and keep it pushing. But you have to stop, and figure out who you want to be. Or more importantly, who are you when nobody's around? That's what's the most important part. Who are you when nobody's around? And if you're not happy who you are when nobody's around, then that's where you start. And for me, because I know what desires in my heart to give back to others, whether it be charity, I know that's something I want to do in the future, whether it be my kids, whether it be my spouse, whether it be helping other men who are my age and younger, or maybe by chance, if they're older, just trying to provide a space for people to come to themselves. Just be in a healthy manner, a healthy habit. I just want us to be better. Collectively. We may not always get there today, but trust, we can do it tomorrow. Find 3 things that you're grateful for when you get up in the morning, and trust me, it's a habit I'm still stuck on myself. So if you don't want to do it today, trust me. I might not do it tomorrow when I wake up. I did do it today. Hopefully I can do it tomorrow. But you get the point. Practice the happy habits, Practice what it is that you want to do. Right now I read a lot of books. And it may not be books for you. It may be going for a walk. It may be going to the gym. It may be praying. It may be fasting. Whatever that looks like for you. Whatever gets you in that mode. Whatever gets you in that zone. Whatever feels like fulfills you. That's what I want you to do. That's all you got. The silence is in the house right now. Like, that's all I have to live with for the rest of my life. Even my mom comes home or my brother comes home. The silence that we have right now, that's all we got to live with. So get comfortable, because this is what you got. This is all the inventory that you can take within yourself. It's the silence you hear right now, besides my voice, obviously. Unless there's like background noise, and if that's the case, then the previous point is redundant. But you get the point. You get the point. I think you get the point. But it's easier said than done. And we have to explore that, hold each other accountable as people. You know, I learned many things from someone, and she taught me so much about love, and even in ways that she probably didn't even want to. And it showed me so much about myself as well as others, and it's just capacity, you know. It makes you realize, what are you capable of? Where do you see yourself? What can you fight for? It makes you remember who you are. Sometimes you have to fight to be somebody else. Sometimes we're performative. Sometimes we put on a smile even though we're hurting on the inside, and we have to stop performing. Because there's no reward for it. There's no Grammy, there's no Emmy. You don't get a platinum plaque for it. I mean, besides literally when it's your job, but in real life, you don't gain nothing from performing. I was always told that men who don't cry in one way cry in others, and you got to figure out what that looks like. But yeah, it's just, I want us to be better. And some of us already are. But for this week's podcast episode, it's really just about, who do you want to be? And I know that's like a reoccurring theme I always carry. I'm about to do the most craziest thing. I'm literally about to paint the big yellow sun in the middle of this artwork. Yeah, it's probably going to be atrocious, but we're still going to do it anyway. Why? Because we want to. But to my point, who do you want to be? You don't have to have the answer right now. Just think about it. Who do you want to be? And that's where it starts. When the curtains close, when the doors close, when your phone's off, who do you want to be? I haven't figured it out completely myself. Trust me, I'm on the same boat that you're on. I do not have the leg up that y'all think I do just because I have this podcast, but I want to explore it. Take it head on. That's something that I want y'all to do. And let's move past what we've experienced. And I'm glad that when it comes down to it, despite what I've been through, and I mean this for anybody who's in this space, despite what we have been through, you can show up as the most authentic version of yourself for anyone. You just got to make sure you're not pulling from an empty tank. Be yourself. Rejuvenate. Go back. Do it again. Because I know now, the man I am today is healing, wounded, broken. But I know that when the season is over, when I'm done being in isolation with God, when he tells me it's my time to come out, when he tells me I've done the work, when he tells me I've completed the mission, or at least one of them, and it's my turn, best believe I'm going to be ready. And I want us to do the same thing. Just be you. Nobody take that away from you. That's like the only thing we got. But to my original point of this week's episode, there are a lot of people who have never known what it's like to be a father, let alone know what it's like to be a son to a father, or to be a man, or to be a boy. And I can tell you from my own experiences, if you don't know what that's like, figure out what that looks like for you. Find a mentor, find a relative, find someone who can not fill the void, but find someone who can teach you. Teach you how to love yourself. Teach you how to be gentle. Teach you how to carry it well. Teach you how to carry the load well. Teach you how to navigate life, where you can learn stuff from. Even if it is cars, find a mechanic you can learn from. If it is, like boats or planes, or insert whatever handiwork or whatever men typically, gravitate towards, whatever that may be. It can even be art. It can be anything. Just find what that is for you. Find what you gravitate towards, and I want you to think about, what can you give to somebody else? I think a lot of times we always think we're supposed to be served, but that's not the heart posture we're supposed to have. You're not supposed to come in thinking about what you have to gain. You're supposed to come in thinking about what can I give. That, my friends, is where things are supposed to be at. What can you give? If we're always worried about how we're going to be served, that's all you will attract is people who want to take. And that's not where love is at. That's not where real love lies. For yourself, too. That's not where real love lies. It starts internally. You got to be in a place of giving. How do you think people learn how to love others? By giving to themselves. I mean, there's so many parallels to self-love, to when it's time to love somebody. There's so many parallels. And it's crazy because the lesson remains true. You ain't got to have it all figured out when you get with somebody, but trust and believe, the more you got figured out, the more you can give. The more you can spread, the more you can understand, the more you can not say, I don't know, and be like, you know what? This is why I'm like this. The more you can navigate. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. It's not at all. Trust me. This is not just a soundbite. Do not think that everything is perfect storm, perfect weather. It's not self-seeking. Because I feel like our culture is so embedded in being selfish, always worrying about ourselves. Me, 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 me. What can I take? What can I take? What can I absorb? But it's never about what you can give. And that's like the whole point. If your heart posture is in a place to give, even to yourself, you got to take some inventory, reevaluate. And so for me, the point of this podcast episode is really to just talk about what you've been through is not necessarily a reflection of what you have to be, or what you're going to be, or what you have to believe in. You know, I found in my time period someone that I feel like really reflects like the type of man that I want to be. And right now, I'm in a different space. Like I said, I'm not in a perfect space either. Trust me, I'm in a rough season myself, but it's just something that I think about. When I think about fatherhood, I think about what my father showed me, because it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. I'll probably grow up as much as y'all don't know me like that, but as much as I have experience with my own father, I'm probably still going to grow up telling my kids to play a video game or playing basketball or recreating the good memories of what I remember from my childhood, my upbringing, or just being around my siblings, recreating those in my kids, and kind of just, you carry on the good stuff, you know? And you push that forward. And that's how you stay afloat, even today, even if it's not kids, even if it's people, you carry the good stuff. Take the good stuff with you. Not everything is bad. Not everything happens to you. A lot of times, majority of the time, it's happening for you. And trust me, everything that I say myself, I'm still in the process of digesting, downloading, applying, and embodying. But I can tell you that is the heart posture I want to have. I think I'm done with this artwork. But for me, fatherhood has always been the greatest gift that God has ever shown me that I would like to partake in. Because it allows me to prove myself wrong and right at the same time. It allows me to humble myself and yet at the same time be able to be proud of something, because when that time comes, and I see it as a reflection because I know it's been put in my heart, when that time comes, because I see it, I've felt it in many ways whenever I read, whenever I sit with God, whether it's through other people, I've felt it that it'll be a game changer for me, and it's one of the many things that I feel He's put in my heart to accomplish on this earth. And it's my own unique experience I'm going to experience. And I was thinking about that, and I realized that there are so many things I've been through. I'm only 25. There's so many things I've been through that could affect that process, and yet it did not keep me down. A lot of things we survive. I think that's what we should continue to do. Continue to do. Oh, gibberish. But it's the same thing for us. So it's one of those things. Now, this painting is terrible. This is what happens when you have acrylic. It looks terrible. But y'all go out there and touch grass. This is Seasons Podcast. Y'all be easy. Peace.